So this is the kind of video I basically have to make before I forget, because I'm never going to be able to write this down, and if I explain too much, I'll probably forget what the hell I was going to say to begin with, because this is kind of a delicate train of thought there that I don't reconsider often much, because it has nothing to do with any current events or anything like that. So when I was 10 and 11 years old, I basically started using mathematics to reformat my brain in a way that could overcome the chaotic amount of various torments and emotional struggles I was, put through at that point in my life. And not going to go into that, but that's a big but. He said but. Okay, so yeah, what was I talking about? How exactly my brain works might help you to laugh at what I consider to be the jokes, if you're not, quite as ridiculously jaded or whatever a person as I am, If you're under 60 years old, or at least mentally. All right. So, I've said this before. Everything that I consider, I reflect on all the data, and I come up with a percentage likelihood of a set of given conclusions of an outcome. What I didn't fully explain is that I then conduct experiments on the metaphysical reality that we all find ourselves in, based upon choices among those possibilities. And usually, if given evidence that leads towards an unlikely possibility being something that seems like an experiment of faith that needs to happen, I will choose to believe in the unlikely thing, sometimes just for the fun of it. Oh, let's see where that goes. All the while not failing to consider the other possibilities. But I have, really at that point in my life, I had kind of gone beyond playing 5 songs at once in my head while crunching, sets and sets of numbers just to occupy my brain. I started making myself crazy. No, like, I had learned about what multiple personality disorder was, and I decided to pretend that I had it, basically. And that got out of hand, because I would just be like just doing characters and just being fucking just ridiculously hyperactive and silly all the time, or unable to control my emotional state, letting things that upset me as much as they could. I was fucking 10 years old, and not only did my entire family life that was already becoming abusive just suddenly collapse, and I became like a bargaining chip between my parents, but I had to deal with that in an area that hunted white people. I can't I can't really express that enough. Like, It was not cool to be there in the early 90s. Okay? I'm talking Kempwood Village in the 5th Ward in Houston. I didn't go far from our front door unless I was just blissfully ignorant at the time or with friends or looking for trouble. Thinking I could get away with some shit, thinking I could sneak through. What are the chances? You gotta go for it, like. Didn't keep making those mistakes. Oh fuck. Okay, I'm not trying to get distracted by living in the ghetto right now. Told you I wasn't gonna go into that story. Huh, damn. So by the time I was, I moved in there when I was 9. By the time I was 10, I think, actually, or I turned 10 there. No, I was 9. I turned 9. That's what it was. Sorry. Don't usually try to narrow down my age on the channel for obvious reasons. But anyways, but like I said, early 90s in the ghetto. And I kind of just saw my way out of it. I wasn't getting much good advice from anybody. And that was the point in my life. It was after kind of, like the world had made me forget. I had a good 3 or 4 years to do that before all this happened. After my childhood in New Zealand with my wife. And I was basically considering myself somebody without a father. And my mother, just say she didn't do a lot of parenting. So I prayed. I could see the mistakes I was making. I mean, I was a hoodlum. I was a thief. By the time we moved out of that first neighborhood, we moved to um, a not much better area. It used to be a nice suburb, had a lot of abandoned houses, um, off of Harwin, Houston. And there was like a group of 15 white kids kind of stuck together and wanted to be skinheads and that kind of shit. Well, after a while. After some shit had happened. And there are some stories I won't, and can't go into, obviously, but I I wound up choosing to go live with my dad briefly in order to stay in Houston, and then going to New Orleans after my mom had moved from Houston, while I went to my dad's. And it was at that point where I really started just trying to focus on my future, on not letting my life be ruined. I mean, at that point, I wasn't going to be much benefit to society if I didn't. And I had even quit smoking cigarettes. Yeah, because I had started up at 9 years old. Wound up starting again in 1997 and no, I quit smoking cigarettes for a little while. And I started up again in 94, smoked to 97, quit from 97 to 2007. In 2007, I just couldn't fucking take it anymore. And somebody just take a drag of this. Didn't you used to smoke? Like, yeah, but nah. I mean, like, I was kind of told to either smoke a cigarette or get out because you're stressing me out. And it was one of these. I'd never had a Camel Wide menthol before. I don't mean to advertise them. If you don't smoke, don't smoke. If you do and you want to have a last pack before you quit, these fucking things are delicious. So, shortly after making commitments, going straight edge, as it were, if you're a fellow Minor Threat fan, and if you're not, look up Minor Threat because they fucking kick ass. I found myself seeing truth in Christianity, but failure in my mentors. Failure in my parents, failure in, preachers, everybody. They failed to teach me. So I started praying to be taught by God. And I didn't do this thinking I was Jesus or anything like that. I didn't think I was anything special. I thought that if this was my calling, then it must be for a reason. And I made a commitment that no matter how much suffering I would endure my entire life, that I would be thankful for it. Because what I found early on in my life, at the age of 12 and 13, once I had escaped to New Orleans, was that my experience could help people. My experience just from Houston, from growing up so quick in Houston, when I got to middle school in New Orleans, I was like a wise elder, like a retired gangster, basically. And while half of them didn't fucking believe it, and I'm sure, most of you don't right now, I had the experience and the level-headedness to help people out when they were stressing about real shit. And one time my reflexes got the better of me, but yeah, I got in-school suspension for that after he pleaded with the disciplinarian that it was an accident and like he knew that I didn't mean it. Guy grabbed my shoulder just to say hello, and I like flicked the back of his elbow and grabbed his wrist and pinned him up against the glass wall in the hall facing the inside of the courtyard. And then was like, saw his face there, and oops, sorry, dude. Oh, shit. And like, by the time I was apologizing, people were already grabbing me. Fuck. The school I had been to before that, man, you didn't get to a class without at least seeing a fight. That would be Sharpstown. For anybody knows anybody from Houston, ask about Sharpstown in the early '90s, middle school and high school. I went to both of them. Fuck. Oh yeah, I'm very careful about that thing that one person is thinking about right now when they watch this. Very careful. So, anyways, a couple of people are going to figure out what it's about that aren't related. That's kind of interesting. It's good to be the gang. So, back to my willful insanity. No, wait, my brain reformat. So, like early on, I had kind of taken this experimental, this percentile likelihood approach. You know, before my parents split up and all that good stuff. And at this point, like, I really kind of just felt out of place, you know? And I got more into that self observation of considering my life its own little experiment that I would ultimately one day write a book about or something and just be like, here's, you know, the story of my unlikely fucked up life and what I think people can learn from it. Because it seemed like God had, for some reason, just like filled up a hat with as many different ways luck could go wrong for somebody. Short of them like being a child soldier or something like that, which no, no comment. You know, technically I had a small dose of that during that period. I mean, but it's not really quite the same. It's like still just a little. Then I didn't have a parent that died. Well, this lifetime, but my wife did. And it really has actually kind of panned out. Basically, any kind of fucking random crap that I didn't go through, she went through. Like the exact opposite type of, but equally abusive and fucked up childhood and adulthood. You know, like we neither of us could ever catch a break until we finally found each other, and that's what changed our fates. And like, there's no denying that for either of us. Um, and that a long time ago became one of those less and less likely things that I chose to believe in as an experiment. But even though we had this promise that we would always remember and we would go through our memories every single night before we went to sleep right after bedtime prayers. I think it was after being taught about the only way Jesus could come back and then seeing the Waco thing. Like, nope, not me. Moving on. What was that crap about John the Baptist? And I used to just try to remember what John the Baptist, who I used to picture in the clouds when I was a little boy, um, with my eyes closed, like just sitting in a field meditating in New Zealand and just the most beautiful surroundings you could possibly imagine. And just at random, at only 5, 6 years old, 4 to start, I'm being taught about psychic abilities, about flaws in the church, about all kinds of things that gave me wisdom beyond my years from a very, very early age by John the Baptist. And that was all I chose to remember. Unless I just tuck that away, that choice to believe in that one unlikely future, where she just popped out of nowhere again. And I knew when she left that it was going to be heartbreaking. I knew just the manner in which she took a human form was going to make her existence heartbreaking for me. And for her. Much more so for her. But her form is reflective. If all this is right, if this experiment was a success, her form now is reflective of how all of you treat the temple upon which you stand. So, yeah, just a little light conversation there. Pun intended. Try not to spit out your coffee, dumbass. What? Um, so I didn't really think that was where this was going when I first started trying to film this video. But I think that's what this was supposed to be about. So don't blame me. Blame John the Baptist. I should have quit while I was ahead.